For this project, you're going to need one skein of yarn, 100 grams, and a 5mm hook, or size H hook. And this is regular worsted weight yarn that you'll need. This is a little bit thicker, but for this project, you're going to need regular worsted weight yarn. 4-ply for the US, 10-ply for Australia. So what you need to do to start off is to chain 70. So chain 70 loosely. Don't make it so tight. And like I said, this yarn I'm using is a bit thicker, but it's just in hopes that you can see the stitches and everything better. So just chain 70, and I will see you back here in a moment. Okay, I only chained 30, but for your hat, you need to chain 70. But for the purposes of this tutorial, I'm only going to chain 30 just so I can show you what you need to do next. So what you do is you lay your chain flat. Make sure you can follow it down with your thumb like this, just to make sure that the chain is not twisted. And when you get to the end, you want to put your hook into the single loop at the top, leaving you 2 loops on the other side. And then whenever you turn your chain like this to form your ring, your 2 loops will end up at the top. Now you're going to do is just slip stitch in that beginning chain. Now you have 2 stitches on the top of the first chain. Now for the next is you want to single crochet in the stitch to the left, or if you're left-handed, to the right of the beginning stitch. So just next to, you'll go under the top loop only, and you'll single crochet. And I'm going to hide my tail as I go. So you're going to do a single crochet, and you're going to continue using just that top loop and single crochet in each stitch around. And you began with 70, but when you single crochet into the next stitch here, you'll have 69 at the end. You should have 69 stitches at the end of this round. So just continue to single crochet all the way around, and I'll see you back here in a moment. Okay, I just came up to the very last stitch. This is where we slip stitched into, and this is our very first single crochet of the round. When you've got your ring done, you want to lay it flat and make sure that it's all going one direction. You don't want any twist in this ring. And what you'll do is you'll skip this single crochet, the slip stitch, and go right into the first single crochet of the round. So I'm going to skip this stitch and single crochet, going under both loops, and do a single crochet. And count your stitches. Make sure that you have 69. I'm going to place my marker, marking the beginning of my round, my very first stitch of the round. So for round 2 of our rim, you want to single crochet into the first 7, and you single crochet in your first single crochet of the round. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So single crochet 7, and then you want to do a single crochet decrease. And how you do that is you go into the next stitch and pull up a loop, and then you go into the following stitch and pull up a loop. Now you have loops coming from 2 stitches, and then you yarn over and you pull through all 3 loops. And then you want to repeat that all the way around. Single crochet 7, and then do 1 single crochet decrease. So I have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then I want to do my single crochet decrease, just like that. And you want to repeat that all the way around. Single crochet 7, and then do a single crochet decrease, and you'll want to repeat that until you get back up to your marker here, your first stitch of the round. Okay, I'm back up to my first stitch of the round, and from round 3 you're going to be repeating what you did for round 2. So if you single crochet all the way up to the end and you have 7 stitches, then the next stitch do a decrease. I started with 30 stitches just for this tutorial, so I have 3 single crochets leading up to my end. So I need to single crochet 4 more before I do my single crochet decrease. So just continue on like you did last time. The last row. Single crochet 7, and then do a single crochet decrease. And when you get back to almost the end of your row, count your stitches. You need to stop decreasing once you have 56 stitches. It's just single crochet the rest of the round. Okay, I just finished up round 3. Don't forget to count, it's very important. Now, if you're making this hat for a man, you should check. And if he lives with you or you're near him, check to see if this would be too tight, because if it is, this is the time that you can adjust it to fit the person. But the good thing about doing the rim the way we are now is because even if later on you find out that your hat is too tight, you can loosen it some. So, and if you are short on the yarn that you used, you can just do 1 row less of, you can just do 4 for the band instead of 5. So, once you get to the end of round 3, then for the next 2 rounds, we're making the size of the band now. So you can go as thick as you want once you have the right size. So you could do 2 more rows, making it 5 rows of a rim, or do another one and add 6 or 7. But you're going to be doing a row of single crochets over the other side of the chain here, which will give you 6 rows total for the rim. So just keep that in mind when you're deciding how thick you want. It's automatically going to be 6 rows. So for this row, which is round 4, and also the next round, you're just going to be putting 1 single crochet in each stitch around. Okay, when you've reached the last stitch on round 5, you want to slip stitch in the beginning stitch of the round, and then chain 1. And now what I like to do to give my hat a nice finish is I like to do the reverse single crochet or the crab stitch. You can call it either one. And what it is you're going to be doing like a single crochet, like you normally would. Pull up a loop, pull through both loops. The only difference is you're going to be working the opposite direction. So you're going to be going back to the stitches that you just made. And it changes your hook and the way you grab the yarn slightly, so it just takes time to get used to. What you want to do is go into the next stitch like you normally would if you were going this direction, and then grab and pull some yarn through that stitch. And now you can see you have 2 loops on your hook. And then you just yarn over and pull through those 2 loops like you would a normal single crochet. The only difference, just to get used to grabbing the yarn, it's easy enough to put your hook inside the next stitch. And then I'm holding my yarn like I usually do. Just grab it to the side and pull it through. Just pull it up like this. And then pull through 2. Do 5 reverse single crochets normally in each stitch, and then on the 6th one just skip 1 stitch and then work it into the next. Skip a stitch, and it will reduce your rim slightly and prevent it from getting that stretched look. I just want to show you what the stitch looks like. You can see it has kind of a bumpy look going. And this will be all the way around the hat. It'll give it a nice look so that you can't actually see the stitches anymore. So continue that all the way around, and when you get to the last stitch, which would be your beginning stitch here, I'll show you how to finish the round. Okay, now I just did my last reverse single crochet here, and this was my very first, where I slip stitched into, chained 1, and then I did my first crab stitch. So you want to slip stitch in this beginning stitch. So you're just going to go into the next stitch, grab up some yarn, pull up, slip stitch, then you'll chain 1 and cut your yarn. Cut it long enough to where you can work in your tail with a tapestry needle, because you don't want to have any tails sticking out the front of the hat where it's the most noticeable, because people are wearing it on their head. So what I do is I thread my tapestry needle and I turn where the back is facing me, and I just follow down my crab stitches, 4 or 5 crab stitches, and I'll pull my yarn through. And you can pull it to tighten this area here in between, and then just slightly tug it. And then you want to cut any excess yarn that you have. Now, like I told you before, we're going to now, this is the bottom, this is our original chain. We're now going to be working in the other side of the chain. So get your needle, your hook, and do your slip knot again. And it doesn't matter where you start. I would suggest starting somewhere away from here, because you don't want to keep, going and beginning in the same spot, because then you'll have a line. So anytime that you can begin somewhere else. So you want to insert your hook going under 1 loop only. You're only going to be working through the single loop. And you want to do a single crochet attachment. So you're just going to pull up a loop, then yarn over, and pull through both those loops. And that's a single crochet attachment. And it also counts as your first single crochet. So I'm moving my tail to the back here. And now again, I'm going through only 1 of the loops on the top like that. I'm doing a single crochet. And you want to work 1 single crochet going through those top loops only, all the way around. When you get back up here to the beginning, then I'll show you what to do next. Okay, I just did my last single crochet of my round, and what you want to do is slip stitch into the first stitch of the round and chain 1. And now you want to move your marker here to mark your place. Okay. Now, when we want to start our clusters, You want to yarn over, go into the same stitch that we slip stitched into, pull up a loop, but you only want to pull through 2 of the loops. Yarn over, go into that same stitch, pull up a loop, pull through 2 of the loops. Yarn over. Now you've got 2 half worked double crochets in this stitch. You'll want to do the same for the next stitch and the next stitch. So you'll have 3 stitches with just 2 half worked double crochets in them. So I'm going into my next stitch here, pulling up a loop, yarning over, only pulling through 2 of the loops. Yarn over, go into that same stitch, pull up a loop, and pull your yarn through only 2. Now you have 2 stitches with 2 half work double crochets. You want to do that again for this last one. Go on to the next, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through only 2. Then yarn over, go into that same stitch and pull up a loop. Then yarn over and pull through only 2. Now you have 3 sets of 2 and 7 loops on your hook. And you want to yarn over and pull through all 7 loops. Then chain 2. And you won't be skipping any stitches. You go right into the next stitch and you start what you just did here, working 2 half work double crochets in the next 3 stitches. You do not skip a stitch. So I'm going to yarn over and go right into that next stitch and pull up a loop, yarn over, only pull through 2, and then yarn over, go into that same stitch. Now you have 2 in the first stitch, and then you'll want to put 2 half work double crochets in the next, leaving the last loop on the hook. And then again in this very last stitch, I have 2 sets in 3 stitches total, 7 loops on my hook. Yarn over, pull through all 7 loops. Then you want to chain 2 again, and you'll continue that all the way around. Okay, I came to the end of my row, and I'm on my last cluster, and I just wanted to give you a tip. If you come to the end of your row and you have more, or you ended up with more stitches than you needed, or less stitches that you needed, like this one is the the last stitch of my round, I only need 3 to complete. But say you have 4 or 5, somehow you ended up with that. What I recommend is going in through the first stitch and then going right into the second and doing your second. And we'll just count that as this. These two usually are in the same stitch. But if you have an extra stitch, then go ahead and just work the second one in the next stitch. And then the next set, go ahead and work it as normal into the same stitch. Like that. So now you have the next two in the same. And then if you're still having extra stitch, then you can go ahead and repeat what you did here by only putting 1 in each stitch. And then once you have used up all of the stitches all the way up until the end of the row, then you can pull through all of your loops and finish the round. Because sometimes it happens, I don't know how, but somehow we get a miscount here and there. And it's easily fixed. Once you have this first row of clusters done, then your count will always be the same, because it's so easy to tell which stitches are what. So anyway, when you get to the very last cluster, once you pull through all of the loops, you would normally chain 2. But on the very last cluster of the round, I want you to only chain 1, because you'll be slip stitching, and the slip stitch will count as the second chain. So you chain 1, and then there's this long beginning stitch that you can get from the side. It'll always be like that at the very first cluster of the round. It'll be kind of a long stitch at the beginning. You'll just slip stitch into that stitch. And chain 1. And now we want our clusters to align every round. We want them to be in a row. And how to ensure that you do that is when you're working your 3 stitches, just like we did last round to make our clusters, we put 2 double crochets, half worked in each stitch, and then you pull through all 7 loops. Well, the 3 stitches you want to be working with is the stitch before this cluster. When you chain to make a cluster, to close it, it leaves this hole at the top of the very top of the cluster. But you also have the stitch before and the stitch after it, which is in a bigger space. See these big spaces? This is where you should be ending your cluster. In the middle, very top stitch here should always be the middle of your cluster. And then you always start to the right. So again, once you finish your first cluster, you'll start the next cluster here to the right of the center hole. And then the middle part of the cluster will go here. And then again, you'll finish in the big stitch. So let me show you here. So you'll yarn over, go into the same stitch that you slip stitched in to begin your round. That big old stitch at the beginning. And then now we're going to be using the stitch at the top of our cluster. Put 2 half worked double crochets in there. And then the very last part of our cluster will be worked in this big hole, big stitch here, where our chain 1 is. You see? 2 in the big hole, 2 on the top of the cluster, and then 2 before. And then once you have all your 7 loops, you'll pull through all 7 and chain 2. Then you go right into the next stitch. See, here's the stitch before the cluster. Here's the one at the top, and there's the big. And that's how you do your clusters in the second round. So just continue to work your clusters just like this, using those stitches. And I'll see you back here at the end of the round. Okay, I'm finishing the last cluster of my round. I began it by doing my 2 clusters here, and then I got my 2 clusters at the top. And now this big space is harder to see at the very last cluster, but it's still here. It's bigger space at the end. So go ahead and finish your cluster using this last big space. And then yarn through all 7 loops. Chain only 1 because this is the last cluster of the round. And again, you want to find this long stitch at the beginning, and you want to put your hook underneath both loops and then slip stitch and chain 1, and you'll have what looks like kind of a line going through, but it's not so noticeable. It's even less noticeable if you're using one color. If you use variegated, then it can be a little it can show a little more, not to mention every row you're going up to the next. So this will be your color, and you're going to bring it up above, so it won't be even all color. So when you use variegated with the stitch, it does show the line a lot more. So keep that in mind. Anyway, once you slip stitch in the beginning stitch and chain 1, you're right back where you started. This is the stitch where you'll need to start your first part of the cluster, then there's your middle, and then this is your last. You end it. So you'll continue to do this over and over and over again. Okay, once you have your hat measuring from the rim all the way to the last row worked, and it took me 2, 4, 6, 13, no, 12, 14 rows, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, no, 13 rows to reach 25 centimeters or 10 inches. And I'm about 24 and a half, something like that. So if you want, you can go ahead and do 14 rows to bring you well into 25, probably up to 25 and a half, or 10 inches. But once you get up to there and your hat's long enough and you're ready to start to close it, I'll show you how. So I've ended the row as usual. I slip stitch in the beginning stitch and I chained 1. And instead of starting your next round of clusters, what I'm going to do is single crochet into this very first stitch where I slip stitched into before. And now the next stitch, I'm going to pull up a loop and then go into my next stitch as well, pull up a loop, and do a single crochet decrease. And then you want to repeat that for the entire round, doing 1 single crochet, then doing 1 single crochet decrease. And you'll continue this all the way around. 1 single crochet, 1 single crochet decrease, using the same stitches that you would normally be using for the cluster stitch. Okay, when you get to the very beginning stitch of the round, you want to do a single crochet. And then I recommend going ahead and putting a stitch marker here, just so that you know this is the beginning of your reducing rounds. Now that was the round 1 of your reducing. Now for the second and third round of the decreasing rows, you're going to just be putting 1 single crochet in each stitch around. So for rounds 2 and 3 of the reducing rounds, you'll just be putting 1 single crochet in each stitch around. And I'll see you back here at the end of round 3. Okay, I just got done with my round 3 of my reducing row. I did my first round of reducing, and then I did 2 rounds of just single crocheting in each stitch around. Now for round 4 will be the same as the first round here. We'll be putting 1 single crochet in 1 stitch, and then the next stitch will be a single crochet decrease using the next 2 stitches. So it's just like we did before, 1 single crochet and then a single crochet decrease, just like that. So you want to continue to do this all the way around till you get to the till you get to the end of round 4. Okay, for the last 2 rounds, we're going to do like we did for round 2 and 3. We're just going to be putting 1 single crochet in each stitch around. So just continue to put 1 stitch in each stitch around for the next 2 rounds, for rounds 5 and 6. Okay, when you come to the end of your last round, just slip stitch in the next stitch, chain 1, leave yourself a tail, long tail, because you're going to need to use it to close the hat. So you'll need to grab the tapestry needle and turn your hat inside out, because you don't want the sewing to show on the other side. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to be weaving, going in through 1 stitch and coming up through the next, then going in the next, coming back up through the next stitch. I'm just going to weave our tapestry needle back and forth. We're essentially making ourselves a pulley with our yarn. I'm just weaving back and forth through the stitches, going through 1, coming up through the next. When you've done, several, and you're ready to pull through, then just push it on through and turn your hat, and just keep doing this all the way around. Okay, we come to the end here. Now you just want to get your hole here, and you just want to pull on your string, tighten and close that hole, and then my string is here. I'm going to go through 1 side of the hole to the other side of the hole. See, my hole is here in the middle, and I'm just going to pull it not all the way through. I'm leaving myself a little loop here to feed my tapestry needle through, and then pull it to make a knot. And I like to do this at least 3 times, just to ensure it's not going to come loose so easily. And then on my 4th time doing it, I'll pull it all the way through to the loop area, and then I'll just use my loop that I have and my tail, and then just tie a couple of knots. Then I'll get my tapestry needle, I'll fold my loop down, get my tapestry needle, and then just feed it down my hat to hide my tail. Then you can stretch it a little, cut your excess tail you didn't use, and then you can turn your hat back the right side facing, and there you go. Your hat is all closed up, and that is how you make the Cluster Slouch Hat. Thanks so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like and share, and please don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.